series, and then just have something, kind of a foundation to build upon as we move into more achievable wins for them later in the LPL.
Yeah, we've seen it's dangerous to pick for these late game comps, and again, hasn't really managed to work out here for World Elite. We'll see whether they change up their strategy as we hop into Champion Select here. Sivir and Rumble being taken off the board by Vici Gaming, and Rek'Sai and Janna a little bit more of a standard banning phase so far for World Elite.
Yeah, we saw some really interesting bans coming out last time that led to a lot of strong picks coming out even during the 4th rotation in the previous game. So there's quite a lot of flavorful picks out there. The Xerath ban comes out here again to ban that away from Ninja. I liked his Azir in the previous game, but I'm going to keep saying it out there. I know I'm beating a dead horse, but you just can't afford to stack that damage on AP champions these days. You need that zonage. You need the flexibility to go into the middle of a fight, have an impact, split it with the Emperor's Divide without just dying to focus fire.
Yeah, and is the Lissandra going to be banned away here by World Elite? Because, of course, was fantastically powerful coming through from Hatong, and they can put it on carry there in the top lane as well. A decent flex pick here, but is going to be banned away here from World Elite. Intelligent ban to come through, and we'll see what they decide to lock away. Of course, the Jarvan available, the Lee Sin as well for Dandy. He was brilliant on that one last game. Many options are open here.
It could even be the Tristana.
Yeah. Oh, the other one that escaped the ban list, ladies and gentlemen, the Kassadin. It's being hovered here by Carry, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was locked in.
And the last time we saw Vici playing that Kassadin, it was actually Hatong in the mid lane who had a very strong game on Kassadin. Another of the string of impressive Kassadin performances we've seen so far.
Oh, yeah.
If you have Kassadin presented to yourself, almost without fail, we've seen it locked in. But the Narvan combo looks like it's going to be the answer.
Yep, back again, but didn't work out for them in the first game. They did manage to pick that one up, but wanting to try that one again and see whether they can make it different this time around. Of course, with that Rumble being banned away, it does give them some more options here because they may not necessarily get smacked in that mid game.
Absolutely, and there's not really a stronger duo of picks right now in this draft than these two, and if they gave them away and we saw Kassadin, Gnar and Jarvan available, that might be the game over, just how much the power of those 3 champions are. So smart picks coming out here from World Elite. Even if they couldn't take it to their full potential in the first game, that just throws the gauntlet on them that, okay, you've had a chance to get your eye in. This is the time we can really see that Narvan Wombo combo.
Yep, Hatong looking to pick up the Thresh, and the bottom lane is being considered here. And even though the Tristana left up here, not banned away this game, not being considered so far, and the lock-ins are actually going to come in. So Dandy's going to take away the Corki again for Vasily, and Hatong locking away that Thresh for Mata. And I like it. I very much do, because they now have a little bit more late-game insurance with this Kassadin in the lineup.
And I can understand to have a bit of mid-game coming out from Corki right here to complement Kassadin, who usually starts to hit his peak once he gets that Rod of Ages to 10 stacks, once he starts to get the Zhonya's coming straight after that. They're mulling over an Ezreal pick right here. Of course, Ezreal is synonymous with the history of World Elite. Wei Zhao's Ezreal was one of the most famous champion and player combinations in the history of League of Legends. It's a difficult one to pick it into a Corki. I'd probably expect a lane swap here just because it's so hard to control the wave, having no AoE till level 6 as Ezreal, but it's just, there's something special about seeing that a WE logo and the Ezreal locked in.
Yeah, and I'm very much excited to see some Braum play here as well. Usually they're going to have a lot of tankiness there in that bottom lane and see whether he can really be the shield here for STYZ, and they can put some pressure on in the early stages. But Aurelia has snuck through the draft as well. Dandy looking back at that Lee Sin, and this lineup is looking terrifying coming out of Vici.
You might be surprised to see the Braum here just because it's not that obvious disengaged target, right? It's not the linear like Skarner kind of initiate where Braum's really would be the difference. But why it's so strong here to me is that when you have a Thresh Corki against Ezreal, then you're going to want to scrap because you're confident in your 2v2. Having such a strong 2v2 laner like Braum, having access to so much mobility, the disengage that he can provide, is a bit of insurance to what could be a very painful laning phase for Ezreal. So it's almost an insurance for Ezreal to say, all right, we know you're going to take a lot of pain in this lane. Let's go for a really scrappy support, like similar flavor to Alistar, similar flavor to what we probably would have seen if it was Conan instead of UJ in this line. It probably would have been a Leona there, just because he's such a great Leona player. Maybe Braum is UJ's flavor when it comes to those engage and disengage supports.
Yeah, we'll see whether the Cassiopeia hover is going to come through here. Ninja thinking about his other options, of course, does have that Azir available if he wants to, but the time has run out, and Cassiopeia looks to be the lock-in here for World Elite, and Ninja going to pick that one up against Hatong's Kassadin.
Cassiopeia is in so much play in these 2 weeks of LPL, these second 2 weeks right there.
Yeah.
We saw a Wayless bringing out against a Kassadin, did fantastically well in lane, but eventually fell down to that Kassadin in the later game there. But it's such a strong laning matchup right here. Being a melee champion, eating that poison, eating the consistent damage of the Twin Fangs, it's so hard to deal with. And of course, there's also the Aurelia factor here. They've got some linear engage now, this Vici side. Suddenly, the Petrifying Gaze and Brom's ultimate actually looks like a very potent way to deal with the Aurelia diving into their team.
Yeah, and we'll see whether they can make it work. Of course, having that combination with the Narvan, as you were mentioning, I mean, didn't quite work out in the game before, but the lineup very different coming through from Vici Gaming. You have to say that Carrie's Rumble was what really put them over the edge on the side of Vici in order to help them get through that situation because they had so much AoE damage. The Lysandra also really helping out. So unable to have that available,
there's so
really
much,
could help
there's
out.
so much potential for Wombo here. The one that I'm kind of thinking about in my head and kind of like glorifying as the gold standard right here would be a Gnar ultimate into the Petrifying Gaze. That would be...
Whoa.
Could you imagine some of the crazy ones? You know, Flash Gnar ultimate, pushing everyone into the Petrifying Gaze.
Right? You've got the Gnar ultimate, and then the Petrifying Gaze turns them to stone, and they all just crumble.
Well, I mean, I think they would crumble whether that was actually the damage impact of just those AoEs or just the follow-up, because so much CC, so much burst, so much potential from this WE comp. And even if they can't perfect it, I hope it's something that we see workshopped among all the teams in the LPL, because just with that Gnar, with his ability to scoop up the enemies and move them in Mega Gnar form, some really fun wombos coming out from these teams.
Scoop is the perfect word to describe the Gnar ultimate.
Well, I mean, it makes a lot of sense when they're scooping and smashing you against the walls, but sometimes it's just like, alley-oop, here you go.
And it's sort of like the animation looks a little bit like a, you know, like a tractor or something.
Whenever
like
it misses, like when it doesn't hit hard terrain, it just looks hilarious. It just looks like they've been kind of alley-ooped away.
Like, see ya. Yep. Please get away from my team. This is working out quite nicely. But the reason we've got a slight delay, ladies and gentlemen, is because our Chinese teams have had to remake the lobby. So I'm just going to be getting back into Champion Select relatively soon. We'll see whether we can get this game to you. And we should have picks and bans coming up again very, very shortly. But just having a little bit of trouble connecting back to this game.
Obviously not the mystery factor next time we see the picks and bans. But I'm just really excited to load into this one because WE, they've got an intriguing comp. Whether it would actually work out, whether they can really make their laning phase work is going to be hard to say. I think a lot relies on Ninja here. I do like the fact that Ninja kind of has the unknown in this game, just because Cassio, if she gets ahead, is an oppressive champion. If she's ever able to chase people down, she's ever able to keep that poison up in Twin Fang. I mean, you get to the late game, you tab over the damage dealt, and it's just through the roof. There's the damage potential with that Twin Fang instantly recharging its refresh rate and having basically a 0.1, 0.2 second cooldown. Cassio's passive, of course, has all those interesting flavors. Starts off with the first buff, giving her that lane sustain, adding on to the extra cooldown reduction, and then finally basically being a death cap, which, you know, once you start adding up, you're probably going to see a fairly tanky build coming out here. We've seen Wayless like to do the tier Rod of Ages build, you know, finishing that Service Embrace. Cool actually prefer just to go for the tier straight into the Zhonyas. So it's the tanky flavor and, you know, just adding up that flat mana and getting a bit of implied tankiness there. So different flavors of World Elite's Cassiopeia play right here. It's been very effective in some series. It's struggled in others. I do like it in this situation just because Aurelia is one of those kind of linear champions. You know what Aurelia is looking to do in a team fight, just coming for the front and going in.
Yep.
Petrifying Gaze could be really important there.
It certainly could, but coupled with STYZ's Ezreal here as well, if he decides to go for that Iceborne Gauntlet, that blue build Ezreal, they're going to have so much kite potential and chase potential as well with the slows and the consistent damage coming through so quickly.
It's just going to be insane. Of course, up the top lane, we have what has become a very standard matchup in 2015, the Gnar versus Aurelia matchup. We've seen this lane swapped. We've seen it in a 1v1 setting. It's very even. We've seen both champions come out ahead in the laning matchup. And you've got so much jungle pressure between Dandy's Lee Sin and Jarvan from Spirit. There's a lot of equal jungle pressure out there, a lot of equal lanes, and I guess the only downside for Cassiopeia, we've praised her ability, we've talked about how she's a lane bully, easy champion to gank before 6.
Yeah, very
and
true.
It's Dandy's Lee Sin here, so they can coordinate some pressure, baby Kassadin through those kind of mana formulation, Rod of Ages formulation stages. If we can just jump to an even game with a fully stacked Rod of Ages for Hatong, it's going to be a different story.
Yeah, and you have to think as well that Kassadin going to do okay in that matchup, does have that spell shield or the magic damage shield that he gets when he does throw out that null sphere in order to get a bit of damage down onto Cassiopeia as well, so going to be able to soak up a little bit of a harass, but probably won't work.
I mean, a little bit, right? You just get that little magic damage shield.
That was going on in my head, and then I'm like, hang on, she can just Twin Fang forever, and he'll probably die.
I mean, maybe the first Twin Fang will get fizzled out by that magic damage shield, but after that, man, the next 3 are going to be very painful. I guess the one interesting flavor, the one adaptation that I'm unsure about, but I'm kind of interested in for Hetong here is we've seen a lot of Kassadins. They start with the points in the queue, and they transition into maxing E when they don't feel like they can trade anymore. He's never realistically going to be able to stand up and trade with that Cassiopeia. So do you just trade on the fact that Ninja's going to be putting out so many spells and just max E for wave clear? It makes you really teamfight ready, but it is a risk to have just the 1 point in Q because you could just get DPS down in an instant.
Yeah, that's true. You do sort of need to have that shield as tanky as possible, but let's get onto the Rift, ladies and gentlemen. And we are onto the Rift, ladies and gentlemen, with Game 2 between Vici Gaming and World Elite. And Vici taking a considerable victory in the first match, but World Elite definitely showing signs of life, and we'll see whether they can pick up their first victory here in this last opportunity that they have this week.
They've clumped around their own red buff here, have World Elite, so they've got in defensive positions here. They do expect the invasion for wards that's been so common from the top teams like OMG right here. They're clumped and ready to fight, but for once, VG look like they're fanning out very defensively.
Yeah, World Elite deciding to move forward here. And Spirit would have noticed whether there are any wards put down, but Dandy's going to see this one. And does just let Spirit know that he's been spotted. They're not going to let up here, though. Invading aggressively. Nice standard to the back of Dandy's head. You'd think that, you know, a sword coming straight through your skull would probably kill you, but only does a small amount of damage to Dandy here on the Rift. And WE just going to have a bit of an excursion and move on.
Yeah, they've got down the aggressive wards they're looking for right here. They're looking for a specific lane matchup. You have to think they want to opt out of a 2v2 to Ezreal and Braum right here. But finally we see Marta answering that early aggression with a deep ward of his own.
Yeah, and Dandy moving all the way through over to the enemy blue buff here as well.
Marta doesn't even want a ward. He's just trying to be a human ward right here, spotting for those lane matchups.
Marta always about that vision to the point where he himself has become a ward.
He won't let me a cooldown stop him from that vision grabbing.
Of course not. They are going to be able to start up this blue here. So Dandy beginning the steal again. He's going to have the Krug start from Spirit here on the top side of the map. Heading over to that blue and see whether they do get discovered. They are pinged out. So Dandy is going to be discovered doing that blue buff.
Carries very late to lane here, which does confirm that Vici were looking for this 2v2. They've been successful in their early lane rotations. They even had that very aggressive ward down in the bottom lane to spot out the Ezreal and Braum coming to lane quick and trying to avoid any wards. So Vici get the wards, the lanes they want. Maybe that'll set them up for an early lane win.
Yeah, and as it looks, of course, the vertical jungling going to come through yet again. Standard lanes seem to be going okay here for World Elite this time around, as Hetong has had that mid lane shoved right in by Ninja.
You can see how many points into utility Hetong has gone to just ensure this laning phase here. Of course, gone for the biscuit rather than potentially the blue buff duration, just because he's like, all right, my first goal is to get to that catalyst. Hopefully the Rod of Ages, because it's going to be a world of pain against this Cassiopeia.
Yeah, we'll see whether it pays off there in the mid lane, as he has managed to pick up most of those creeps that were underneath the tower. Of course, Pro Kassadin's very, very good at clearing out these creeps under the turret, as Descent's going to land here on the bottom side, but Marta not going to go forward onto that one. Of course, turret range is a thing that you have to deal with at level 2.
And to give the viewers an idea, I'd say the par for Kassadin this lane is probably 30 CS down, just how one-sided this matchup might be. 20 CS at a push, I guess, at the top level competitive play, but it's a super hard lane matchup for Kassadin, especially pre-6, and with a ganking jungler like Spirit's Jarvan.
Yeah, has managed to make it to level 3, so kudos for that one. Only down 3 CS at this stage. But you have to think, as this wave piles up and as Hetong has to move further away from his turret, he's going to be missing more and more. You can already see he does not want to approach those creeps.
And the lane snowball will start when the wave pushes out back towards Ninja's turret, and Cassiopeia is able to open up space in that lane and really zone with her poison. Ninja has to be very smart in positioning and grouping this wave right here to ensure that he's able to use the poison for trading and just have the wave exactly where he wants. About here in the lane is where her tongue's like, all right, I really can't go anywhere near this wave.
Oh, yeah. Dandy, though, heading up to this top side, potentially for a counter gank on Spirit. Has been spotted out, putting that ward down. It's been pinged, and Spirit is going to approach unnoticed towards this top side. Is Carry going to come in? Lands an Equilibrium Strike, but the last Hyperproc not going to go off as Luca takes a lot of damage from these creeps.
Ping does come down from Carry, so he's aware that Jarvan's here, so it will be wasted time for Spirit.
Ooh, actually misses a cannon creep due to that jungler zoning there as well. Does get the caster minion, and Spirit is going to head back to base.
I'm not actually sure if he got vision of that brush with that ward, but the effect's the same. Is able to position aggressively, and Dandy goes to another lane.
Yeah, Ninja, with that CS advantage, decides to go back as soon as he can afford that tier. Make sure that he's stacking towards that Seraph's Embrace as quickly as possible. Of course, when you're not last hitting with that Twin Fang, you are really going to be running through your mana very, very quickly.
Absolutely. We saw different flavors of Max on Cassiopeia back in the day. We did see Q Max just to have that extra movement speed and have that guaranteed dot damage and then control the wave a little bit better. Obviously, you have a bit of AoE with that ability. Then we saw the Twin Fang Max just to have that consistent single target damage. Recently, it has been the consensus after the rework of the Twin Fang Max, just because once you hit that first poison, my goodness, the burst damage that comes out.
Oh, yeah. Spirit now trying to set up for a gank, but Hatong heading back to base at this stage. Wants to get some mana back, pick up maybe towards that Catalyst. Hasn't actually given anything away just yet. Yes, can actually afford the Catalyst. 10 CS down in this mid lane, but almost has escaped the really terrifying time of Kassadin's life, which is pre-6.
Absolutely. He's never really going to be able to play too aggressively just because, you know, if he Rift Walks in, he's going to eat a Petrifying Gaze, right, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Those cooldowns going to come up about the same time right there, but he's actually played quite well here. Only 15 CS down, so that's a very good par for the Kassadin right here. And again, he's getting babied through the lane as much as possible. Cassiopeia, she might be on a roam.
Yeah, looking to maybe put some pressure down on this top side of the map. They knew that Dandy was around. Carry just going to clear out this wave with his ultimate. Hatong going to avoid some poison there.
I mean, we compare the matchups that are unfavorable, right, which is the Kassadin into Cassiopeia, so that's from a Vici side, and then over on the red side, the Ezreal into Corki matchup. You'd have to actually say the Ezreal is actually pulling ahead a little bit here in terms of just that sheer unfavorable matchup. Only 10 CS down, going to get some CS at turret right here. SDYZ's done very well despite the lack of lane push available for the Ezreal.
It hasn't actually been back to base, though, and you can see Vasily has got the makings of that Phage already in his back pocket. Much larger health pool. And STYZ probably wants to be able to pick up that tier as quickly as possible if that's the direction that he is going to be going, but might just be going for the standard Triforce of old on the Ezreal here as well. We'll see what kind of flavor of Ezreal he wants to go for. As Dandy miss a Sonic Wave there.
I mean, interestingly, when we have seen the Trinity Force Ezreal, it has still been the Mana Moon Ezreal. So that has been the consistent pickup right here. And now they know that this Ezreal is underpowered in terms of items, and they're looking to contest this blue.
Yeah, Dandy coming in very aggressively here as well. Hatong's coming through. Petrifying Gaze lands on the carry. After that one comes through, the steal on the blue does come down, but look at this. Ninja getting taken down so low. Yuge also falling down, but no one dying as of yet.
The rotational play from Vici is finally starting to step up in this third week of the LPL right there. The communication that STYZ and UJ, they hadn't shopped. They weren't in any position to contest the second blue buff was masterful. That's why we saw the teleport come in. It allows them to steal away the blue. It guarantees them this first dragon. Fantastic rotational play coming out from Vici Gaming.
Yeah, beautifully done. Don't manage to pick up any kills, but do get that first 6% damaging stats, and Hatong able to push out this wave, almost equaled up this CS2 on this Kassadin, and we've seen what Hatong can do on that champion as well. I mean, he's down 50 gold. I mean, that's nothing. I mean, Ninja can pick up some CS under this turret now as well, but you can see that this Kassadin has been fine so far in the laning phase.
Absolutely, and that's a scary thing if you're a world elite right here. Of course, much the same flavor in the bottom lane coming out from STYZ, and we could see a trade here.
Yeah, Ninja actually doesn't have that Petrifying Gaze back off cooldown just yet, and Hatong knows it. He's doing his best to pressure this Cassiopeia while he can.
Yeah, the little windows are what separate the good players from the great players right here. Being able to take advantage of those cooldowns is so important for Hatong. But he's winning this lane straight up just from how he's able to stay competitive in CS.
Oh, yeah. Dandy going to be starting off this blue buff. You have to think that that's going to go to Hatong here as well. Actually, he's been pinged out. Wants to clear out this farm here. Make sure that he stays as relevant as possible. Dandy probably going to hold on to that one. His Blade Surge just so satisfying. Eating through these creeps.
Just checking the skill order right here. Hatong has 3 points in the Q, but crucially has already put that second point in E from level 7 onwards. So I will keep tabs on whether we do see this E max coming out before the Q finishes.
Vici now just hanging out on his own. Marta's going to come round now. And STYZ going to clear out these creeps as well. So it's actually come ahead now in farm is STYZ.
Of course, it is a second shop versus just a single shop coming out from STYZ, as you noted in the first situation. So World Elite don't have a window to take advantage of any neutrals with this item advantage or item disadvantage. So just very standard laning right now. No first blood in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, very slow game this time around. And you have to think that it might just be because Vici Gaming know that, yeah, we don't necessarily have the early game comp that we had last time. We can just play this one out slowly.
But anytime a Kassadin can come into a fight or into a mid-game team fight without his team in a hole, just from the lack of pressure that an early game Kassadin can provide in the mid lane, have to hand it to the Kassadin team right there.
Oh, yeah. But we'll see where the carry can get going here on this Aurelia Spirits. Waiting in the wings, trying to get some sort of gank attempt down. Not going to be able to kill that ward off. And does get spotted here. Vici taking a lantern here to safety, and STYZ going to avoid the death sentence.
Surprisingly even matchups in both the mid lane and the bottom lane. So it should be an over-tuned Ezreal just in comparison to the lane matchup he was given. And this Kassadin, the Rod of Age, is going to come out at a very good power time. Tabbing over, he's about 500 gold away from that. So it should be about 30 to 40 minutes. So delayed as you'd expect in a counter matchup, but a very respectable power time for that Rod of Ages.
Yeah, not doing too badly at all. And STYZ going to be able to head back and pick up that Manamune as well. And he's done fine. Picking up a tier normally means in the bottom lane that you're just not going to be competitive, but has managed to get through it. Now has a CS advantage here as well as the Phage gets finished off here by Vici. So STYZ definitely having a good game this time around.
I don't actually like the completed Sheen right here, although it does have some good poking advantages. The fact that you're completing this Manamune so late, you don't have that completed tier, so that completed Manamune to be able to get the mana charging on tier. So it will set back his Mirror Mana transformation even further, complementing the fact that he didn't go back for that early tier. He stayed in lane a lot longer. So if we move on to the tier right here, it's only at 132 right now. So it's probably going to be 25 minutes or later for that Mirror Mana transfer to come out.
Dandy actually coming in, but Yujay's here to try and stop the engage. That Unbreakable's a little bit breakable when it's a Tong throwing a Force Pulse into your face, but they are going to be able to back away from this one. Nice rotational play by Hatong on this Kassadin.
Still not
going to find any kills.
And still not clear what Ninja's going for as a second item right here. He's got the blasting one, so maybe just going to rush down the Archangels to ensure he has the defensive Seraph's Embrace finished very quickly. Obviously, Cassiopeia basically using spells on cooldown when it comes to charging tier. We've seen very, very early Seraph's Embrace transfers coming out from Cool, for example, who had that item at about, I believe, 18, 19 minutes. And Hatong, he finally eats a burst of damage, and that's basically 70% of his life from one QE combo.
Oh, there's a Death Sentence actually onto UJ there, but Braum very tanky here as he takes a missile barrage. And Vici wants to make something happen. You can see the Dragon going to be up again in a minute and a half. Hatong again taking a burst in the mid lane.
The World Elite Ezreal buff is coming through here, though. That champion, synonymous with success. STYZ has so far had a massive success in the bottom lane. He actually has a CS advantage, which is almost unfathomable in this matchup.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. We were talking about this before. And considering his build path as well, that you were saying was, you know, quite unfavorable, you might say, in that bottom lane as far as maximizing your damage potential at all stages of the game. So definite credit going to STYZ here in this matchup.
He's definitely going to go to the usual Iceborne Gauntlet Mirror Mana transformation. It's going to be a later Mirror Mana, but just with that extra gold, if he can fit in some extra items to complement that late Manamune, he'll be doing just fine.
Oh, yeah. And that tier is also still stacking, of course. It's just not going to be stacking on auto attack like it would if you had have built up that Manamune. But 300 gold is the lead here for World Elite.
Yeah, it's a nice little lead just from laning. So we noted the 500 to 700 gold lead that Vici traditionally had, that consistently had in the previous game from laning, from CS fellows, but this time it's World Elite. So credit to them. They've picked up some of those fundamentals and playing smart League of Legends. And here comes Spirit.
Yeah, Spirit coming into the top lane, gets the flag and drag carry completely out of mana here, and you have to think this could be first blood. Aluka picking that one up in the top side, and Spirit with a perfect gank.
Very nice rotation, but committing 2 to the top at this point may open up Dragon. But they do have teleport available on Aluka. He's in Mega Now form right now, so he won't have the transform. He's coming in.
He's coming in, and that Petrifying Gaze is definitely scary. There's the Glacial Fissure to come through from Yuji, and Marta getting aggressed on heavily here on the bottom side. The box comes down, but SDYZ uses that Sheen to get that Mystic Shot kill. Very nicely done.
Spirit is chased away from this jungle, so they don't have a smite available, and here comes Dandy. Will it be the Prince of Thieves? No, he's kept away. First Dragon to World Elite.
Yep, World Elite answer back. So that's 1 Dragon apiece for both of these teams, and World Elite pulling ahead here. And Vici Gaming sort of not knowing what to do in this game as much as they did in the last one.
It really does excite me to see assertive, smart rotations coming out of this World Elite team who've had no success. They're 0-11 at this point, but they're standing up to a Vici Gaming lineup, a hyped Vici Gaming lineup with so many great players on that lineup. So it's a big thing for World Elite, but they did capably in the first game in terms of the early game, then fell away late. Now they're actually ahead in the early game, and it's on them to translate that into a game win.
You can see now SDYZ has finished up that Mana Mune. Now has a 10 CS advantage here on the bottom side. Picked himself up a kill as well, so he's going to be ahead in that gold. And now without the Dragon separating these teams from attacking stats, it's looking fantastic on the bottom side for World Elite. As Vasily takes a lot of damage from that Mystic Shot.
Rod of Ages finally finished at about 15 minutes. Here's to 25 minutes. We'll start to see Hatong really getting going as this Kassadin. Going to be a late Zhonya's too, of course. Item timing is going to be delayed in this counter matchup in the mid.
Yeah, we'll see when Hatong can switch on this Kassadin, because of course he is the late game here for Vici, and they need him to be relevant when that time comes. Of course, so far not really too harassed. This mid side of the map going to be able to pick up this blue buff, and then maybe attempt to put some pressure on elsewhere, as Aluka looks to be the focus.
Yeah, they've communicated there's no defensive wards down here for Aluka whatsoever. No, there is one. I tell a lie. It's spotted out by Dandy. But Aluka's gone for the early Sunfight. Not a big fan of this build just because the Randuin's has that teamfight impact, and the AoE magic damage, of course, at level 11 is only minimal, not even the 40 that we used to see back before that item had level scaling right there. So it does apply a little bit of pressure, but doesn't have the big impact of a Randuin's in a team fight.
And everyone's sort of positioning around this Baron pit, looking to try and get something going on here. No one really committing too much, as we do have players re-entering the lanes.
Here's something I did not expect in this game. The first turret actually goes down for the Ezreal lane right here. Their turret's actually quite healthy as World Elites right here. They take the bottom turret, tabbing over to the gold. 1,600 golds are probably going to be a completed Iceborne Gauntlet going when Ezreal goes back right here. This blue Ezreal's going to be rocking in the mid game.
Yeah, he's really going to be hitting his stride at exactly when he wants to be. Ninja now may get aggressed on here in the mid lane as Hatong's waiting in the wings, but nice ward going to spot him out from Spirit. He's going to keep walking around, maybe collect some more jungle camps. You can see nice vision to come through from Vici Gaming yet again this game in the enemy red buff area.
Look at the wards here. That's the one thing that World Elite haven't been able to turn on. They haven't been able to realize, all right, we're ahead. They must at least feel from the item builds that they're ahead a little bit. They're, of course, ahead 2,000 gold here. But their warding wouldn't show it. If you look at this mini-map here, the enemy half of the map is still completely unknown to them. And they really need to be... They still have the double sidestone. Realistically, they should be able to get those aggressive wards down. But I want to see World Elite moving that vision up aggressively, because they've afforded themselves that right by having such an impressive early game.
Yeah, and they do need to capitalize it in that warding, because, of course, you do need to translate to picks around this game if they want to grab someone out and maybe really capitalize, pick up some towers as well. Because it seems to me Vici Gaming more than happy just to sit back, farm this one out, suffer the losses that they have already, but as long as they don't suffer too much, they are still going to be relevant come late game when Hatong really gets going and when Carry becomes that monster here on this Aurelia. Already finished off that Trinity Force. They've got 2 now that have been completed. Vici Gaming hitting a bit of a spike here as we come into the 20-minute mark.
I mean, being ahead is only relevant if you're able to take objectives from that advantage. It's just like if you get a pick, you need to take an objective from that kill that you pick up. Otherwise, it just ends up being negated. And it's the more assertive team that will win out over the long haul.
Not going to quite be the case here as Dandy's going to back in that top side. Going to head potentially towards where Marta's warding out. Of course, they do want to get some vision there on the bottom side.
A completely bizarre item pickup, but interesting flavor coming to it. The Alacrity enchantment on Ninja right here. The amount of movement speed this Cassiopeia will have on hitting the first Q here is insane. And I guess if that extra 15 flat movement speed gives them access to an extra Twin Fang or two, it could be the difference between securing a kill or not. So I like it. It's very unconventional to see, you know, the boots enchant so early in the game, before 20 minutes, but a lot of interesting flavor to that on Cassiopeia. Her chasing power here, her movement speed is going to be insane in a team fight.
And the Archangel's already finished up here as well, so Ninja wanting to scale that one up. Oh, as the Force Pulse to come over here, the kick to come in, but not quite managing to make it. Yuji trying to get away from this one as Ninja gets caught down here. Petrifying Gaze still threatening here at this stage.
See the Twin Fang damage coming on to carry, chucking him to about half right there. So the teleport does not net any advantage, but only 50 seconds till the Dragon comes out here. You see that Alucard's going to get a chance to freely shop right here. We'll see what he picks up. Finishes the Spectre's Cowl, so he has a bit of magic resist himself. Now Alucard and World Elite have the advantage in terms of rotations. They have the teleport advantage right here, but they need to get these wards down because their wards are being swept around Dragon very quickly. Yeah,
and meanwhile on the bottom side of the map, Vici pressuring this bottom outer turret. So World Elite being forced into a difficult situation here, whether they really want to assert dominance as far as vision is concerned around this Dragon or whether they want to defend that, but they've decided to give up on this bottom turret completely, and World Elite looking to make some power plays here in the mid. And look at Hatong already starting to do massive damage with that needlessly large rod now on top of that Rod of Ages.
Been out-rotated here pretty severely, have World Elite. They basically surrendered the bot turret for no gain. Even though mid turret's at fairly low life, they weren't able to freely DPS it down, so they've given away position on Dragon right here. They still have the teleport advantage, though, and we might see a fight.
Yeah, Carry's coming in here as well. Hatong getting a decent amount of damage. Ninja has that Seraph's Embrace available as well, so with that barrier has a lot of shield potential, but no one really wanted to pull the trigger. Alucard about to transform into Mega Gnar. There he is. Gets tagged by a Sonic Wave, but Marta gets walloped here. The one-person Gnar, and Marta gets eliminated immediately, and Vici really wanting to get out of this one. The wallop not going to land on a Dandy as well, but he does get picked up by the True Shot Barrage. Nicely done here. And Vici, they just have to get out. And World Elite, they're going to be able to take this Dragon if they want it.
Alucard had so much zoning potential, coming in with just the right amount of rage. Very good Gnar mechanics right there, building that up and teleporting at the right time right there. And you saw how much space control and how much implied teamfight control Ninja has on that Cassiopeia right there. There was no chance whatsoever for Vici to come back into the fight because they knew the Petrifying Gaze was coming and the damage potential of those Twin Fangs. Very smart play from World Elite. They pick up a second Dragon. This is the position they were at in that previous series against LGD, but they did not have the gold lead to complement that. 2,500 gold lead for World Elite here.
And actually, I think Hatong wanting to try and put some pressure down onto the backing members after they took that Dragon, but unable to really make it there. Ninja going to head back to base here as well, and getting the outer turret in the mid lane as well. World Elite really just outplaying Vici around this map.
Yeah, the rotations from World Elite, a team that's been traditionally poor on the communication side, is excellent to see as we see Alucard and Marta having a bit of fun on the top lane.
Yeah, Flay not going to quite connect to Alucard here as well. Is Carry going to come round, but Gnar getting pretty tanky. It takes quite a while, quite a time investment in order to kill that guy.
It's important to note that Hatong does have the CS. He has 20 CS behind Cassiopeia, but that's just fine in terms of pars. He's going to get his back off just right there as Ninja sees the prey that he was trying to play with around that corner. He's very close to his Zhonya's right now. He's about 1,600 gold away from finishing his Zhonya's. That will change the flavor of this team fights a bit just because he can rift walk in aggressively and because of those short cooldowns. Going to have a second rotation of spells after the Zhonya's comes through. But STYZ is so strong in this game right now. He's working towards his Blade of the Ruin King to complement his Iceborne Golem and Muramana. Has those CDR boots already. The amount of mobility in these team fights for this Ezreal already very high.
Oh, yeah, and he's going to have that Arcane Shift up off cooldown quite quickly as well, as 25% is going to be his flat cooldown reduction so far without any runes or masteries adding to that one. And Blade of the Ruin King going to be the next option, of course. Hasn't noted too much armor on the enemy team, but that's going to be changed when this Frozen Heart gets completed by Carry in this top side of the map. Lots of pings going down. Rift walking away is Hatong. Ninja very speedy on this Cassiopeia.
We'll check in on the stat.
Wow, Petrifying Gaze actually going to be thrown out here by Ninja and going to miss Dandy completely.
Checking on these stacking items right now, very close to the mirror man here. I tabbed over about 700 charges, so very close to the 750 transformation is Ezreal. The Seraph Embrace already completed on Cassiopeia, and then 25 minutes is when we noted that the Rod of Ages will be stacked up for Hetong. So we'll finally see the first big fight, probably at Second Dragon, when these early investments, when these investment banker choices are really starting to pay off.
And Hetong now just split pushing here on the bottom side of the map. We saw it working out very well for Starhorn Royal Club when they were utilizing this Kassadin in the hands of Cola in the split push maneuver. Winter's Bite not going to find its mark onto Dandy, and Hetong continuing to push as Carrie's trying to fend off this Gnar on the top side.
Yeah, big item pickups across the board. Looks like it's going to be the Zhonya's second for Ninja. I'm going to speculate. I guess it could be DFG coming through for Ninja, but it's probably going to be that Zhonya's just for that extra implied tankiness and ability to front line. It's good to see from Ninja. Of course, has favored those sheer AP items, but Spirit's actually used the Cataclysm here.
Yeah, Winter's Bite to come through as well. The Blade Surge, in order to get him out of that Cataclysm, doesn't get stunned up and gets knocked out of the way here as well. Unfortunate. I'm not entirely sure what knocked him back.
Was the roller coaster ride coming from Marta's Dark Passage right there, rather than a sheer knockback?
Just didn't see him.
Just didn't see him. Off the map, off our screens, but definitely still in our hearts, as Marta always.
Of course. Was this outer turret is going to be aggressed on here in the mid lane and taken here. Vasily managing to get the last little auto attack to push that one over the line, and World Elite unable to find their pick and lose the objective.
Tab over so much gold on Aluka right here. It's good that he's going back to buy 2,300 gold. Probably going to finish, I would imagine, it's the Banshee Veil. There it is, just to have another way to stop any sort of initiation. No kills on the board for Vici Gaming at 25 minutes. It's been a very low kill game, but the few kills go to the advantage of World Elite. The structure advantage goes to World Elite, and they have 2 Dragon. This for 25 minutes, this is the best World Elite have played ever since some preseason tournaments where they were showing some promise with this lineup. It's been a struggle for them so far in the LPL, but finally the whole team has got it together. 25 minutes on the Rift in this game.
And you have to say as well, I mean, World Elite has had a tough run through the LPL so far. Invictus Gaming, Snake, M3, OMG, and LGD have been their matchups so far. Definitely higher tier teams with the exception maybe of M3, but VG feeling some pressure here from World Elite, and you have to think that they're probably getting put on the back foot.
But what would a win do for World Elite here? To pick up one here, proud organization with so many supporters, to finally get a win on the board going into some of those easier matches. Of course, they must inevitably play the likes of Gamti and NG Pacemaker and some of those lower half teams much sooner. A win over a big hype team like Vici Gaming right here would be a massive thing, but let's not put that one in the record books just yet. They're only 3,500 gold ahead, and this is Kassadin we're talking about. We haven't seen too many Kassadin losses in the LPL so far this season.
Especially not in the hands of Hetong as well, who's definitely proven himself a seasoned Kassadin player as Dandy takes down this Grump, and Carry finds his way back into this lane yet again. Even CS for these top laners. Aluka definitely having a better series than we've seen him on so far. I mean, some of his Gnars in the last game were definitely noteworthy. We'll see whether he can make something happen as Carry tries to get to that tanky Aurelia mark where he can just be a menace in the back line.
Tong is backing right now. He has gold for the Zhonya's. That will be the pickup right here, but he's going to have to really rift quickly to get back to this Dragon in time. With the World Elite, they are in position right here. They have teleport on Aluka. For once, Carry does have teleport available when Dragon's up, so he can go answer this Gnar split push. And it's important to note, he actually is in Mega Gnar form right here. So Aluka needs World Elite to buy time for him to get that rage up, because right now he's not in a position to have an impactful teleport.
And you can see as well they were pinging out onto Aluka on this Gnar, who's now moving down through the jungle of Vici Gaming. And the standoff continues here around the Dragon. So much vision, though, for World Elite.
Would be disastrous for them to initiate a fight here just because of the lack.
Ooh, the teleport from Carry.
He's going to come in with no rage. It's going to be difficult for World Elite to get the fight they want.
Yeah, Luca trying to build that one up, but Carry gets immediately taken down to almost no health. Yuji, though, going down so low, and Ninja manages to take down Carry here with a nice petrifying gaze. You can see the health bars are so low on the side of Vici Gaming, and SCYZ trying to kite through that Iceborne Gauntlet doing so much work. Martyrs almost dead. Vasily trying to turn this one around. Spirit going down so low. He picks up the kill, but Aluka's here as well. Finally got that Mega Gnar form. SCYZ, though, Dandy for the hero play. Picks up the kill on SCYZ. And the 2 last men standing. Aluka, though, has that hyper. You have to think, yes, it is going to be Dandy falling down for an ace for World Elite.
Such a close fight coming out from World Elite right there. If Aluka had the Mega Gnar available, it would have been one-sided, but it went so long right there before they got the Gnar ultimate for the Wombo, and we finally saw the disadvantage of picking up that Cassiopeia right there. She died very quickly under Focus Fire, and this has been the Ninja thing. He always goes for that death cap right there. He doesn't have the stasis, and there's not that much tankiness coming out if he spends any of his manas before the fight starts.
Yeah, and he popped both his barrier and his Seraph's Embrace in that fight, and it just wasn't quite enough.
So we see the replay here. Both top laners come in. Aluka doesn't have the Rage come up, but it does come up quickly. There's a lot of Wombo coming in, but unfortunately the Ezreal ultimate misses everyone, and instantly dying right there as UJ. So they lose that tankiness, the ability to apply that passive onto multiple members. SDYZ is healthy through the majority of these fights, but he's not doing the same damage that Vici is. There's a wonderful flash coming out from Vici. He lives a long time here, and Cassian and Corki are fighting members, but we go back to live here. They are able to take the third dragon, so the objective snowball continues, but we saw a little bit encapsulated in that fight just how much damage Hatong and Vici were able to do when they were able to use their mobility and get around a fight.
Yeah, and Dandy unable to secure that dragon as well, so it's another one being picked up here by World Elite. Is Dandy going to battle for these Raptors as well, wanting to make sure he puts on as much pressure as possible. You can see Vici Gaming with a lot of pressure here on the top side of the map from Carry, and Dandy going to try and steal away this red buff as well.
World Elite are actually putting a lot into the rotations right here. You see the distortion boots come out on Aluka right there, partially for the Flash Gnar ultimates, which could be very powerful, but it also will ensure that he has teleport up a bit more often. So it won't just be the dragons they can contest. They will have that teleport on a far shorter cooldown than carries Aurelia.
Yep, Dandy going to be kicking some chickens here as well in World Elite's side of the map. Possibly going to secure this blue buff as well for Hatong, who's actually heading down to the bottom side of the map. So they need to clear that one out, and you can see Ninja, he's got his eyes on it, got his own one already, but it's not enough. He wants as many blue buffs as possible.
They're not sending anyone to answer this split push. They need to make a decisive objective play right here. Baron is possible just because Cassiopeia's Baron damage is insane. Of all the AP mid laners, there'd be no one better than Cassiopeia to burst down a neutral objective.
Oh, yeah.
But Castan's all on his own. Doesn't have teleport, but he does have respectable turret pushing damage. And World Elite, they need to make assertive moves, but look at this. They're so indecisive. They walk towards Baron, they cleared a ward, they walk back to top, they walk back to mid lane. They're just considering going to top right now. They're achieving nothing. And this Kassadin split push, he's not a Zed, it's just a Kassadin, is actually quite successful.
Yeah, and he's doing a lot of damage to these turrets as well. You can see managing to take down more than half of the health of this inner turret before Aluka manages to get there and stave him off. Definitely
you might be wondering, why do we see kind of the meandering coming out from World Elite here? We keep coming back to this mini-map situation, Atlas. It's still fairly barren for them. They don't have any aggressive or even defensive wards around that Kassadin. They couldn't make the aggressive rotation through their blue buff area to try and get to that Kassadin because they don't have any wards there. They can't make aggressive moves because they don't have any wards around either the red or the blue buffs. And part of that is the smart pinks coming around their own blue buff, but a lot of that is a double Sightstone comp, just not putting their wards down effectively. The efficiency of the ward placing from World Elite is a really big problem.
Yeah, and you can see the 1-3-1 split push coming through as well, and Carry's more than happy just to back away when he needs to. He can see when anyone from World Elite's coming around, and that's the difference between having that warding and not. And Hatong, he doesn't even mind because he's Kassadin. He just Rift Walks away.
Absolutely. Very, very safe, even with the nerfs to Rift Walk. We'll still happily get 3 to 4 Rift Walks in and has the flash available as well, so very, very safe right there. And he's happy to answer. Happy to have Aluka answering a split push, just because Aluka doesn't have realistically the damage to be able to stop that Kassadin.
Yeah, it's going to take him too long. Of course, neither of them really going to die there. Bit of a stalemate. You can see Vici now positioning themselves around this Baron. Have got a little bit of extra vision around there as well. Both teams now able to see what's going on around that Baron.
World Elite do get a bit of position on mid lane here, but have to back away. The team is split on what they want to do. They don't want to necessarily rush down the mid lane, but they're not trying to DPS down Baron. They bought time for Carry to get up his teleport right here. Of course, there was a distortion boots available on Aluka, so he already had that teleport available. And now Aurelia is successfully split pushing top, and World Elite need to make this push felt.
Yeah, and you can see SDYZ already pressuring Vasily off this turret, and they've got so much damage. Easily take down that inner turret in the mid lane, as Carry's going to try and trade that one for the inner in the top lane as well. And World Elite not wanting to pressure this one any further. You can see Aluka doing some work, pushing up towards this inner turret. Of course, Hatong unable to really answer for that one. And World Elite, they rotate around. Smart moves, and they're going to trade one inner turret for 2.
They're going to get the second one there, but where are they going to go from here? Looks like Aurelia's going to back off. Probably going to be difficult to do any sort of dive or get any realistic damage on this inhibitor turret just because Spirit's at half health or just slightly above already. 2-for-1's a good trade. Teleports aren't necessarily wasted. They haven't used any extra summoners, so a 1 rotation from World Elite right here. 3,000 gold, still a minimal gold lead at this point, but we see 1 minute 40 to the next dragon. The 4th dragon is so important, not necessarily for the buff it gives, but of course it really puts on that implied timer, because once a team's narrowing in on a 5th dragon, it doesn't matter what comp you have to fight for it.
Yeah, and you have to think that everyone on World Elite going back here as well is going to be giving up a fair bit of vision opportunities here and some opportunities for Vici to really clear out the wards around this Baron, but see whether World Elite can reassert their dominance over that area of the map as Vici has vacated. And you can see Vici definitely feeling the pressure this game. They are behind, but not by too much. You can imagine they may feel like they're behind further as well because the pressure is on them in this matchup.
Yeah, we see that some aggressive wards have finally come out for World Elite at the 33, 34-minute mark of the game, but they don't actually have wards on the discrete buffs here. They don't have a red buff timer necessarily or a blue buff timer necessarily. Tong's looking aggressive. There might be a fight in the mid lane.
Yeah, Tong going very aggressive there. Carry not quite being able to make it into that back line, but you can see this poke damage doing a lot of work from Vici. Vasili's rockets starting to smack down pretty hard. Almost has that Infinity Edge completed. And I like that, ignoring that last Whisper because, of course, does so much mixed damage. It's not as useful on this champion. You can start utilizing the extra crit that he gets from that Trinity Force as well. But Vici, 25 seconds now on this dragon, heading down there, maybe wanting to pick up their 2nd dragon buff of the game.
They definitely have position on this dragon. They were able to take that blue buff because of their great ward coverage around the dragon. Luca eats the Q. Will we see the initiation?
Yeah, he's going to safeguard his way back out again. Spirit gets hooked up there. Nice box to be zoning them out here as well. But there's the Gnar. Perfect transform timing. And Ninja has so much DPS here in the backside. Dandy takes down Spirit, but Ninja is all we want to talk about at this stage as Carry's going to fall down as well. That's 3 dead for Vici Gaming, and World Elite have Baron on their minds, or is it the inhibitor?
Wonderful Gnar coming out from Aluka right there. We've criticized him rightly so. He's really struggled to have an impact in the first 10 games, but the Gnar won them the fight. That the petrifying gaze Gnar wombo that we speculated about pre-game was a sight to see right there. And they're just going to free DPS down this inhibitor turret. They don't care they don't have minions.
They don't, and they... Vici Gaming just a little bit upset that they may not have, I guess, respected this Gnar Jarvan combo, and Aluka on this Gnar especially because he's been fantastic this game, and you have to think as well, considering the fact that Ninja just has so much consistent DPS with all of that CC as well, it is so hard to teamfight this team, and whenever Vici try, they haven't managed to make it work.
It's a modification you have to plank against a Cassiopeia comp, just because Cassiopeia is actually a higher consistent damage person than the Ezreal. For once, you don't want to actually aim that 80 carry. You want to blow up Cassiopeia at any chance, because if she keeps that poison going, she will be easily out-damaging the tanky
could she be
Ezreal.
caught? No, immediately flashing over there as well as Ninja's going to get eliminated straight away. Carry going to teleport in. Aluka's here as well. Hatong able to be wherever he wants to with that Rift Walk. The flash is in here as well. Is World Elite going to pay for their last brilliant team fighters? Aluka's now back alive. Has the Gnar, but doesn't pick up any stuns apart from on Dandy there, and the chase is on here from Vici Gaming. They've got a giant creep wave as well. With 2 dead, they might be able to put some pressure on, but True Shot Barrage, they're not going to be able to, but Vici Gaming answering back so strongly. They're not out of this one.
Look at the minion wave in the bottom lane as well. There's about 5 minion waves pushing in. There's so many things that World Elite need to do right now. They need to absolutely kill this minion wave bound bot, but you saw that the Ezreal Ultimate's already come out here, and it looks like they're trying to contest the Baron, but it might be to their doom.
Yeah, the Death Sentence to come through here as well. The box just to try and zone World Elite away from this Baron. You can see that Vici Gaming have it down to about 2,000 health here as well. Hatong's going to die to Spirit, but they do secure the Baron. It's in fact going to be the incredible damage of Marta to get that one down as Aluka finally transforms. We are going to have a short pause, and you can imagine that there is going to be a lot of chatter in these booths because, of course, you can over in China, and they're going to be really working out what they want to be doing.
Yeah, those minion waves are pushing like crazy into the bottom lane right there. It's so nice when you pick a good fight, you get the pick you're looking for, and the 6th man, that minion wave, is really complement what you're doing and pushing in so aggressively. I can't tell right now exactly how much damage it's done to the inhibitor turret, but it's smashed through the inner turret right there. They pick up the round for just 1 member, so of course Hatong unfortunately will not have that buff. But we've seen the power of picking up those Baron buffs in games where you're behind. It buys you those 3 to 4 minutes of Baron buff where you can reset. There's no realistic way to outpush a Baron buff team just because those minions become crazily strong. So now World Elite the one thing you can say about World Elite's comp is does get outscaled by Vici's right here. You don't often say that when you're against a Corki comp, but I mean, Cassidy just has more reliability in a team fight. He has the rift walk to always have the positioning he's looking for, can get that burst damage done and go into stasis. Whereas Cassiopeia, if she ever lets that poison drop, it's kind of like when Draven drops an X, specifically if it's Crystal's Draven, where you don't go for the attack speed. If you're focusing completely on catching your axes, you drop the axe, you lose 40% of your damage. When Cassiopeia's Twin Fang goes on its true cooldown rather than its shorter internal cooldown when it's poisoned, the amount of damage you lose is insane. So the reliability of Cassidy definitely outscales, and the reliability and the maneuverability of Cassidy definitely outscales the Cassiopeia. And Blue Ezreal gets to that item advantage very quickly because, of course, his 6-item power spike is much cheaper than a traditional AD carry. Doesn't need a Trinity Force, doesn't need an Infinity Edge, doesn't need those 3,500 gold plus purchases. Corki right here will have a more expensive build, will be doing more damage in the late game, and Blue Ezreal still has its strengths, but in the late game, I think Vici are going to really take this one.
We'll see whether they can, of course, as we are going to hopefully come back into this game, but we've got to replay quickly. No, we're not. Just going to hop straight back in here as Ninja going to clear out that creep wave that you mentioned there on the bottom side, and World Elite going to clear out the Dragon here as well. So trading a Dragon for a Baron, and that's going to be actually, I think, up to 4 here on the side for World Elite.
It does look like the 4th Dragon coming out there, so World Elite looking very good. The 4th Dragon, of course, does give Vici a bit of a timer right here. They'll light the Baron buff. That'll buy them time. But that Baron buff is going to time out before Dragon respawns. And that's when this game's going to get really exciting because we're finally going to see that late game team fight. These two teams with big items crashing together and see just which comp comes out ahead.
Or that late game decision to take Dragon for the 5th time or that Baron as well that WE are going to be able to force here on the side of Vici Gaming.
And that's mostly coming to a head. The biggest situation that's come to a head was the OMG versus LGD game, I believe it was, where OMG traded a 5th Dragon buff for a Baron buff, came to the Baron after it was already claimed and aced them with those huge stat increases that you get from that 5th Dragon. Of course, 12% AD and AP by the time you get that 5th buff, not to mention the 40 true damage on auto attacks and single target spells. So many stats from that 5th Dragon, but it makes sense. It's the culmination of what, 30 minutes of control over an objective?
Yeah, well, exactly. And World Elite have actually pinged down this mid lane. Of course, that inhibitor turret had been taken down here. And Vici wanting to push this bottom lane with Vasily here, and they may get out-rotated potentially as this Corki being forced to back does, of course, have a little bit of a quicker back considering that Baron buff.
See, why he's actually gone for the Guardian Angel here, so he's adopting for the extra tankiness. He's not someone you want to assassinate in a fight, but I said this before, it's Cassiopeia who's the main damage coming out from this World Elite lineup. That's the person they're looking for. Still very tanky as Cassiopeia, has the Seraph's Embrace, health pool, shield to complement the Rylays and the magic resist from the Spectre's Cowl, but Cassiopeia is the definite target in a team fight for VG.
Oh yeah, and without that Zhonya's Hourglass as well, can't make herself untargetable in these fights. So you're going to have to make use of that extended health pool with the barrier as well as that Seraph's Embrace, as you mentioned.
I mean, the amount of health we're talking about there between the two shields and that health purchase she's already picked up is massive, but it's not stasis, right? It is not the ability to innately draw aggro to other members of the team. It's just an item that Ninja hasn't been tending towards. And on those champions like Xerath, where his long range means that if he needs to go into stasis, he's probably made a mistake. Okay, I understand it. But to really not go for it on a more medium and short range champion like Cassiopeia, it's just a bit questionable to me.
Yeah, very true. But we'll see whether it is going to work out. This pickup of the Rylays, of course, has a lot of health. And 6 items now have been completed by STYZ on this Ezreal. Has that Guardian Angel now to complement the rest of his blue items. The Spirit's gone aggressive. Not going to find any targets, though, as Hatong and Marta are around the side. Carry has almost got that teleport available as he moves around from this top side as well. So World Elite putting pressure here with 5 members. And Aluka going to lose the Banshee's Veil as Dandy going to hit him with a Sonic Wave.
Minion Wave definitely in the advantage for VG in the bottom lane right here. It's about even, maybe slightly in the advantage of World Elite in the top lane here. So mostly it's not a concern right here. I guess that the exciting thing is hopefully when we get to this 5th Dragon, which is the next guaranteed fight, you'd have to say, the next guaranteed contest coming out from VG, we should see a really decisive fight, and that should be the winner, the team that's able to take advantage of that buff.
Oh yeah, and that ward going down One of the most exciting things that's happened in the last 3 minutes, most definitely, getting a sweet zoom in. And, oh, Spirit going to miss the flag and drag. Very unfortunate. Ooh, Descent's going to go wide as well.
I need to be careful here. These two members are really split off from the team. Dandy hits a Q, doesn't want to initiate. They're too tanky, Spirit and UJ on the Water Lead side. Very, very tense of these trades right here as we wait for this decisive team fight.
Yeah, and still 3,000 is the gold lead. That's nothing at this stage of the game. Descent's going to land onto Aluka here. He doesn't have his teleport yet. He's going to get obliterated, and that is a gigantic force in the potential team fight ensuing after this one as Vici try to chase down World Elite, and that is awful. Hatong manages to get over, but a beautiful zone is going to stop him from getting CC'd. Manages to flash over the wall. Carry's in here as well now. Hatong, you can imagine, is about to come back in as Dandy's trying to get the work down. Carry does fall. Spirit's incredibly low. Dandy going to die as well. The team on Vici just unable to follow up here as Marta's going to get Vasily out of trouble, but that's 4 members chasing them down. Vasily's going to get stunned up. Ninja has so much chase potential, and they turn it around.
Massive moves from Blue Ezreal right there as we do see the assassination by Cassidy on the Braum. It's not a big deal though. STYZ is basically full health, still has the Guardian Angel up right here. So tanky and so maneuverable, these WE carries, that they're even able to win a fairly unfavorable fight. That was a 4v5 fight, of course, as Aluka was hopelessly split away from his carries right there. Very poor positioning and rotation from World Elite, allowed the free kill coming in. Hatong, he's on a split push mission. And Spirit, look, he can clear waves, but he certainly can't take this Cassidy.
Yeah, and I think Hatong maybe rift walking a little bit too aggressively. It was a nice Zhonya's, but then flashed out immediately while baiting the rest of his team to come in, and Vasily just wasn't able to get there in time to get any consistent damage down. So a little bit unfortunate. And when you've got a Cassiopeia who can just do so much guaranteed damage with those Twin Fangs, just becomes very scary in these drawn-out fights.
And one of the interesting things about the Cassiopeia here we have highlighted, he's up to 760 AP because he just hit the 3rd evolution of that passive just before the fight. He was sitting on 480 stacks, moved up to 500 stacks, of course, gains the extra, I believe, maybe even 20% AP, at least 10% AP, was at the 30% that caps out at. 750 AP. Still has, and he even has a defensive item. He hasn't even gone for the sheer most AP he can go for.
Yeah.
This Cassiopeia is doing massive damage in a fight.
Most definitely. And what's very, very important at this stage, as was highlighted by the cameraman, is the fact that Dragon is just about to be up, and it's imperative that Vici manage to get this one. They, at the moment, do have some vision control, but World Elite are grouping, and they are going to be able to take this one if they want to. Of course, everyone trying to collapse on the side of Vici Gaming, and this could spell one of the last team fights that we're going to see here, depending on how this goes, because the 5th Dragon is so scary, and Dandy's waiting in the wings.
You have to know there's going to be a contest right here. Marta goes in.
Oh, the Flash Descents onto Ninja of all people as well. Hatong trying to get some work done, but look at the beautiful Gnar combo with the Petrifying Gaze as well. Dandy's going to go down solo. Hatong's dead already as well. STYZ has so much damage. Carry's going to fall down, and World Elite tear Vici apart.
This is the STYZ we've been waiting for all LPL split. It's the one that was on display on LGD. It's the one that was on display in the preseason. But Blue Ezreal, and it's always Ezreal for World Elite. It's always the champion that really propels them to a win. And they might be able to finish the game right here. They're 4 members strong.
Oh my
Vasily
gosh.
gets exploded. 10-1-11 is this Ezreal right here. 402 CS. 4 members pushing to the mid. It's finally come. It's taken 12 games for World Elite, but they're going to get on the board.
And this was one of their most difficult matchups here as well. A deserved win from World Elite and a crushing defeat for Vici Gaming. And the spirit of Wei Zhao is alive in STYZ at this stage, winning on his signature champion for World Elite. What a beautiful thing to see.
I mean, they've been mulling over that Ezreal pick for so long. You've seen them consider it, move over to the Corki, consider it, move over to the Caitlyn. And he's a wonderful Caitlyn player, but Ezreal just synonymous with Team World Elite. The flavor of Wei Zhao, the spirit of Wei Zhao. He's still alive, let's talk about,
yeah,
but no longer on the team and no longer the really strong carry for that World Elite team. But STYZ finally stepping up. He's warmed up. He finally warmed up so far, but he finally got to that point. 10-1-11, dominating performance. He laned well as Ezreal in an unfavorable matchup, and his team fights, he had a Guardian Angel, but it never looked like he even took a lick of damage.
Yeah, exactly. And let's have a look at this next replay. It's actually going to be when Vici engage onto World Elite here, and we'll just see how the counter engage works.
But watch those words. Engage onto World Elite, and you never want to engage onto a Cassiopeia. We'll see that here. So we'll roll the tape right here. This is, of course, the fight for the 5th Dragon right here. So it's already a very tense thing. Aluka dies instantly. and that's the big issue here for World Elite. He's very split from his team. It was very poor movement around this banana bush here for World Elite, and so understandably Vici feel that's the go button. They're going to go in right here. Tong goes in, has the stasis, so of course can buy so much time right here. The Petrifying Gaze misses right here, so we see this extended fight. SCYZ in the back. He's a 6-item blue Ezreal. Okay, in the late game he won't have the damage, but in the late game he's very damage ready. And the amount of control coming out from that Ezreal, SCYZ can team fight in the front and in the back at will because of the low cooldown on his ability. Flashes in to get that kill on Vasily, and that was the beginning of the end for Vici Gaming.
Yeah, you saw Tong come in there for a last sort of, I guess, yeah, sort of semi-kill is going to help him. Of course, my brain melting
he padded
just
his stats a little bit.
They're padding his stats, but not really helping them as far as the team fight is concerned. And just beautiful to see from World Elite. They're finally on the board. 111 may have done it, but definitely getting a win is going to make them feel very good. But this isn't our last matchup. We still have one more for you.